Okay, this is part 2 because it went too long. So I'm going to finish reading the book Sleeping Beauty to you guys, and then I'll upload both of them, and you guys can have a longer story because it went longer than I thought it was going to. So when we left, the prince had made it through the thorny bushes, and he was now in the castle. So within the walls of the castle, the thorn bushes that had surrounded the castle for 100 years turned into beautiful roses. The prince wandered through the rooms of the large castle in wonder, seeing everyone asleep. He could wake no one. Finally, he reached the flower-covered chapel. He pushed the door open and entered, and a single ray of sunlight fell upon a small couch at the foot of the altar. There on that couch lay Sleeping Beauty. She could be no other, for his heart burned within him. He approached and he knelt down, and he kissed her on the lips. Sleeping Beauty stirred, opened her eyes, and said to the prince, "Who are you? I must have fallen asleep. Have the others gone home?" She thought it was the day of her birthday celebration when she had gone to sleep. The prince could not speak. He was so glad to have found her. She's beautiful, isn't she? Look at all that red hair. Yes, sir. Soon the whole castle woke up. The king and queen rushed to the chapel to see their daughter. With cries of joy, they embraced her, and then the prince, as though he were a son. The prince was taken away to bathe and have his wounds taken care of, while the queen explained to Sleeping Beauty what had happened. "He loved you more than life itself," said the queen, "and that is why he came." "Mother," said Sleeping Beauty, "I also love him more than life itself. And as I slept, I dreamed he was trying to find me. In some dreams, he was a boy, in others, a man. But in my dreams, I always knew he would come someday." Not long after that day, another splendid feast was held in the castle, this time for the wedding of the prince and Sleeping Beauty. Invitations were sent to the nobles of the kingdom and to the fairies as well, but no invitation was sent to the Blue Fairy, for she could not be found. On the appointed day, all the guests arrived, but it was such a different celebration from those the castle had seen so many years earlier. The lords and ladies huddled together in groups and whispered, for they were in a castle that had been shut off from the world for 100 years. Nor had they ever before seen fairies, for during those 100 years, fairies had withdrawn completely from living among mortals or humans. Yep, but they're back. While the feasting continued, the Blue Fairy arrived at the castle. Knowing what was in her son's heart, she followed him, planning to prevent the wedding. As she approached the gates, she heard the sounds of celebration. The realization that she was too late filled her with more anger than any mortal can know. Throwing open the doors, she stormed into the great hall. "Again, you have offended me," she cried. "Not only did you not invite me, but you've tricked my son into marrying your daughter." The prince was astonished to see her standing there, for he did not know his mother was the Blue Fairy. The king and queen shuddered, for it seemed they would never be free of the Blue Fairy's curse. Her voice rose in rage. "My blessing there can never be, for I shall take my son with me. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust, all mortals die, and so they must. A curse I place upon this spot. All those with mortal blood shall rot." Oh, she's pretty nasty, isn't she? Yep. She is not one very happy Blue Fairy character. "Mother," said the prince, "if you curse this household, then you curse me also, for I am now bound to this family by marriage. And if you curse me, your own blood, then you curse the blood of all fairies. And one fairy may never curse another. Your power here is broken by this marriage. I shall never go with you." The fairies in this room stood and faced the Blue Fairy. The Star Fairy, the last one to come, was the last to speak. "You have broken a fairy law. If one fairy is by another fairy cursed, then all the evil is reversed. It will haunt you down and be your own, for you must reap what you have sown." The Blue Fairy grew white with fear. In her anger, she had gone too far. Sleeping Beauty spoke to the fairies. "There is another law that is stronger. It is the law of forgiveness. All has ended well, and I forgive my husband's mother. I will not be forgiven by a mortal, the blue fairy screamed. She stormed out of the hall, followed by all the evil she had wished on others. And where she went, no one knows. After a while, she returned to her mortal husband and begged forgiveness from her son and his wife. And it is said that to this day she lives in a convent, praying to be made mortal and thereby set free from death. But she can't be because she was evil, but she was forgiven. The prince and Sleeping Beauty had children, both being of mortal and fairy blood. They grew fairer and more quickly than most. Their children and their children's children ruled wisely and gently for many centuries to come. The star fairy and her kind seldom returned, preferring to keep their distance from the mortals. In later year, the prince who became king chose to be mortal in order to stay with his queen, Sleeping Beauty. So in the vaults of time they're buried together, but beyond that they will live in eternity, as we all know, as we all shall do. And they lived happily ever after. And that's the end of Sleeping Beauty. That's called a fairy tale, guys. Love you all. Bye.